They will no longer be tied, but they will still be tied.
Surprised we didn't pull that one out earlier, but
well, pull it out now.
I knew it had to be done at some point.
Yeah. Figured I'd just get that pun out of the way. This is interesting out the gate from Patapan, actually.
And this is going to be Xavier going back to previous metas here, where we did see a lot more Orisa gameplay with the snipers as well. LYNX going to be doing more of the standard of this current meta, but already losing a play.
Yeah, that is an excellent Hulk kill as well on such a high priority target in this sort of fight. So it's just going to pull the rug right out from LYNX. There's still a couple of seconds. There might still be a scrap on the point, but Xavier have been smart to take a lot of ground here.
That's the first thing that LYNX have to get past, is they do need to sort of navigate through the Hulk, make sure no one gets pulled off. And it's weird to see it being the Winston as well. Oh, sorry, it was actually on the Zarya. Never mind. I was going to say if it was the Winston, you just sort of jump out of it, but Bumburapa are not going to be as lucky.
Now just looking to approach the point. The cap did end up going the way of Xavier, of course, so good job taking that ground. Now LYNX finally on the approach. They've really taken a lot of time here. Good stun on Tay and quick kill on Thittercorn, actually. So this is going okay for LYNX. No response kills just yet.
We need to see the damage come through, because once LYNX, with this type of composition, actually take the point itself, despite being low health, that's one thing they got to watch out for. Xavier have to actually repush. Now they can repush because they have a player advantage.
And they've also got the ults to back it up. A Dragon Strike is going to cut them off from this point. If they want to come out and fight, they're going to walk through it. Sadistic makes that grave mistake. And, well, speaking of grave, this is now LYNX committing a lot into a fight where they're actually at a numbers deficit now, and more kills coming through the way of Xavier. Only one trade kill. And even as the percentage gets a bit tied up, Xavier are looking to pick this one back up.
And I think what you see there as well from LYNX is, despite getting the actual camp itself, they took so much damage while capping, and they don't really have enough pressure on the defending team at that point, which was Xavier Esports, that Patapan's damage was coming through, the Dragon Strike cutting the team off as well, like you mentioned. Xavier then getting those picks to allow themselves to get back on, puts LYNX back to where they were again. The cap goes back in the way of Xavier Esports, and now LYNX are still just waiting for some ultimates to come online, because that's the one thing that's kind of missing from this push as well.
Honestly, Patapan's just had enough kill pressure single-handedly. It's really paid dividends for this team so far. That's, again, a really strong entry frag, and LYNX just kind of have to ride off that fight. Like, Luminous Ace had a Primal Rage that he chose not to commit, and indeed you wouldn't want to commit it here, but it says a lot that that was a fight with no ultimates on the side of Xavier, that LYNX just had to give up.
And the other thing you're seeing is LYNX are giving up on a lot of fights after one member as well. It's like they don't have the ability to actually find and engage even with 5, especially against a Xavier squad where, to be quite fair, with an Orisa, they're going to have a much harder time pushing into you, and so far, they've been the ones pushing into LYNX. It's really strange.
There's a day finally LYNX able to make an approach, but honestly, this is where Xavier can just kind of dig deep, reach into the bag of tricks, and oh, there we go, a Dragon Strike, a kill on Bumburapa. They've still got more to burn, more to work with as LYNX, Saiyajin God loses the mech, Luminous Ace. Primal Rage long since run out. They're still waiting on support ultimates to come up as Xavier are still getting kills. Nice bump off though on Thittercorn. Traded back with Sadistic. Now sound barrier on both sides of the fence. LYNX might be able to pull this one back around with the self-destruct and this Transcendence. They're desperately trying, but they need to get the kills to back it up.
We need to see this Graviton Surge coming through, and LYNX are bleeding through so many members.
Yeah, that was all she wrote there with the halt on Luminous Ace and then a stun kill on Bumburapa. It feels like it's all over, but they're crying at least on Sanctum. Xavier going to walk away 1 up in just a few moments here on Nepal.
And I think there just wasn't really a lot of fights taken here. LYNX once again just giving up on so many of them very quickly. Bumburapa gets the Graviton Surge at the 99% mark for Xavier. I think Xavier, on the control point in the poll, reached 100% before Bumburapa did, which is just saying a lot, to be quite honest. Yeah. Xavier as well, just consistently able to do the early damage, the early pickoffs with the early initiatives. You don't see that at all from LYNX. They just look too lost.
I think lost is a very good way to put it. Like, especially when you're running the Winston in there, you really do need to make sure that you are engaging it. I mean, you sort of mentioned it with the displacement you get from the Orisa, with the spam damage you get between that and the Hanzo. It is a little bit harder, but you can always change things up in that case. You can play a little bit differently. But now, speaking of play differently, both teams looking to come out the gate on a Rhine 3-3. So pretty stock standard, to say the least.
Now, this is where you, in the actual mirror itself, will see if LYNX can sort of be a little bit more front-footed here, because you're running the same thing as your opponents. You're really looking at the main tanks. Both the Rhine players have to make this work.
Speaking of Rhine players, Queen off to an early lead with the ult charge, but Luminous Ace is overtaken. Early now death on Queen. That's a little bit of a tough break, and this time it's Xavier who are kind of having to cede the ground, and by extension, seed the point as it unlocks.
I think you say taking early lead with the actual percentage there. I mean, he's doing the damage, but while you're doing the damage, you're also quite vulnerable as well. So Giant LYNX find the opportunity to take down the Ryan, which gives them the point control as well. Xavier know they don't want to fight when that situation arises. They do, however, want to take this retake very quickly.
That's the thing, a lot of damage already coming out on Pataphan. Nice stun on Bumbarapa, not quite enough to finish him off, but there we go. There's the last little bit of damage. And from there, it's just looking like a wash for Giant LYNX. Suddenly, the levy breaks. It's like you get one kill and everyone else seems to be completely out of position. Everyone else seems to have no idea what to do. They all end up going down, and Xavier are going to get possession of the point.
This is where it just feels like Giant LYNX kind of punching above their weight a little bit. They get one nice hook onto Xavier Esports, who is a much bigger person in the ring right now. Just say, well, this is what a punch really feels like. They regroup with the full 6, come back in, basically get a team wipe, don't really have to use much for it. Rally's a bit of a free ultimate, and now they just continue ticking up. Giant LYNX are at least not at a huge deficit, but they got to get these ults up, and that was a big problem on Sanctum.
I mean, when you consider they actually had a slight lead in terms of ultimates coming into that last fight, now got their work cut out for them. That's going to be the grab to come out from Pataphan. Weren't able to layer it up. THK was still getting back in the mech, so that's one ultimate kind of absorbed by Giant LYNX thanks to Panny's Transcendence.
You also didn't see Xavier being in position to do much about it this time around, though.
That's a really quick fingers. Yeah, Earth Shatter is what that's called from Queen. That was really great. Grab from Bumbarapa was decent, that's the thing, but Xavier just reacted to it so beautifully.
And the thing is, you do see, because Bumbarapa used the Graviton Surge, like you said, it kind of stops a little bit of the engage from Xavier, but they still managed to find 2 kills within that. Was a good counterplay overall from Giant LYNX, but they couldn't capitalize on the other things they had. You had Luminous A sitting on the Earth Shatter as well. Didn't quite get to use that one. Neither Rocket nor Panties had a defensive ultimate to really save themselves as well. So Giant LYNX still just caught in this place where not really having the right answers at the right time, and time does start to run out. 73% for Xavier.
They're also coming into this with an ultimate lead. That's the thing. Double support ultimates is more than enough. Then you consider Pataphan coming up on a grab. That's a reasonable shatter, but Transcendence from Thetacore to follow it up because they know the grab isn't going to be there from Bumbarapa. Speaking of grab, that's the self-destruct combo THK picks up too, and that's going to be that. Pretty much sealed in what could be the last fight. Giant LYNX, Rocket's going to struggle to get back to the point for this.
And I don't think Xavier are really losing any fights here. They only sort of back up the one time when Queen does go down. There's a lot of bit of token resistance here, Giant LYNX, to just kind of have to Transcendence on the point if they even can do that.
Yeah, not going to be able to. Nice positioning by Xavier at the end there. They realized that Rocket hadn't died. They realized he was going to come in to force the overtime. Stun him, kill him quick, and then move off the point. Try and stop any last-ditch attempts to get that overtime going. Make sure it gets closed out. So, honestly, Xavier just looked like they outclassed Giant LYNX.
And this is the Xavier we expected going into this match as well. They are the team that is much more high caliber. They have the better record across the entire time they've been in Contenders. Giant LYNX, you know, this is about the nightmare, kind of the most nightmarish start you can imagine for them. It was nearly 2 back-to-back 100-0s, and you'd say if Queen didn't go down, if that opportunity didn't happen on Shrine, it probably would have been 2 back-to-back 100-0s because Xavier just did not look like they were ever going to lose a fight.
Yeah, I mean, they also got that little lick of percentage on Sanctum, but, I mean, that was a really interesting one. They basically got a kill. Xavier did a smart thing by rotating out of the way so they didn't lose anyone else, rotated close to the spawn. They gave a little bit of ground because they knew they could afford to.
Remember that one.
And just immediately re-engaged. In fact, faster than what Giant LYNX were clearly anticipating. And look at the difference. When they got an opening kill on Giant LYNX, they absolutely fell apart on Sanctum.
Yeah, and the thing is, it starts to feel a little forgettable because, like, did they even lose a point? Because they lost the point, then just instantly, it's like, did we just lose that?
It was so quick. It was almost like one contiguous fight where the point happened to flip partway through. Like, it feels more like that. It still felt like the whole way through Xavier were in control and in the driver's seat, except for that very opening skirmish on Shrine.
And I think that was one of the examples. This is that cap on Sanctum where, you know, like you mentioned, Giant LYNX were able to get on there. It was probably one of the few times where Giant LYNX showed some really good initiative. Okay, they're running an arrested composition. Hard for them to push into us. We can take the point, force them to come in. They don't want to come in. Cool, we're going to cap for free. And then maybe we can take a bit of a team fight. But they kind of got lost in the middle there. Again, took too much damage. And then kind of just got cleaned up. Pataphan finding some nice angles. Bit of a slow start for him on the Hanzo, to be fair, as well. Giant LYNX, just a much slower all-round everything for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, what's done is done. Maybe they just take control as a write-off there. Moving forward as they come into Escort now, I think this is the one that's really going to be telling, I'll be honest, because I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a shutout in some capacity here. But to find out what that actually means and what getting a shutout entails on Escorts, first one must hybrid. Thank you. One must know how it works, and here's how.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
So there you go. That is the explainer. That's how hybrid works. Hope you learned a lot from that one personally.
Yeah, I know what it's called now.
Yeah, it's like, that's right. This is the one where you got to cap the point first, and then there's the payload afterwards. And that's the thing. You got to get to the ticket booth first at Blizzard World. Then you get to go on the guided tour.
Right.
And then the game ends. You do the opposite. You stop the people coming on the toilet.
Unlike a normal ticket booth, instead of just a queue, there is a final boss. That's what that's like. Like queuing would be a lot more interesting if at the end of the queue you had to fight a boss. That'd be great, wouldn't it? But anyway, I mentioned just before that, like I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a much more one-sided thing here, and by that I mean like Giant LYNX not being able to cap the point at all. I kind of want to see Xavier exhibit that level of dominance here if we really want to have our faith in them restored for the season, right?
And I think what we see from Xavier is, I was going to mention, like, on this particular attack and defense, especially on A, is if the defenders kind of make a mistake, you can just get pushed off the point quite easily and then kind of lose the point from there. But what we did see, particularly on Shrine, was when Xavier kind of lost a member unexpectedly, they backed out, regrouped super quickly, then came back in. So I think the opportunity is still there on Blizzard World, where if things go poorly right at the start, I don't expect Xavier to just fall over too quickly. I think they are going to regroup.
I would certainly expect so, but I mean, we'll have to see how it actually pans out. Beacon of amusement that this map is. I do expect to be very amused and entertained by what goes on here. Already things aren't off to a hot start. I'm not sure what happened there, but Giant LYNX only just getting to the point as Xavier were approaching it as well. This is almost like fighting on control. Giant LYNX have not entrenched themselves. They're not set up positionally. You're already seeing the pressure mounting. Luminous A's goes down. Bumbaraf has been hacked out. They are absolutely crumbling here.
And we talked about Giant LYNX being on the attack and Xavier defending, but actually Xavier in the attack first. If they find those opening picks, we do now expect them to just take control of the point, to cap out early, and we don't expect Giant LYNX to really have a bit of a comeback. They're going to have to wait till B now. Big problem here is because they're running a Sombra, we don't have an EMP. Siege God is not even close. How are they going to win this next fight?
Like I said as well, huge mistake there to get to the point so late. I mean, you've got so much time to set up there. There's really no excuse. At any point now, at any rate now, Siege God going down as well. So this is still just
It's going to slow down his own EMP. It really pushes THK forward as well. Speaking of pushing forward, Xavier just not afraid to just walk in, and they have the player advantage as well. They know it. They might get another one. Sadistic took a lot of shots there as well. Giant LYNX need to regroup quickly. They need to deal THK quickly, get Panty's Transcendence up, and then they have a way to actually win the fight.
That's the thing, as the kids say, it's free real estate. Xavier get one kill. They are constantly forcing Giant LYNX to move further and further and further back, just taking all that ground.
Oh, look at that timing.
EMP, real fast set of kills there. I mean, there has been no resistance on this cart yet.
And I think if Giant LYNX just had a little bit more percentage-wise, look, Panty's was a 97. That could have been an easy 100. He needed to hit probably another 2 left clicks or something. Like maybe just 1, he would have had the Transcendence. That could have been the difference maker. But now, the speed point looks like it's all done.
That's a really tough break as well. Last couple of meters, and there's still ultimates to burn. That's going to be trying to counter at the grab, but they still lose 2 members despite that Transcendence. Giant LYNX just seem like they have nothing they can really do. I think you described it well. It's like they're, you know, fighting 2 weight classes above themselves right now. And getting
I was thinking 1, but 2 sounds a lot more,
getting,
you know,
bandied about the ring, I'd say.
2 sounds a little bit more accurate right now. What we are about to see is some ultimates starting to come on at the correct time. Giant LYNX, the 5 that they were waiting for, and now here the problem is we're already on to C. They are now getting that 1 fight where they are ahead on C. The bigger problem is Xavier can absorb this. Tay's nearly on Sound Barrier. Diddacorn's already on Transcendence. He in particular just needs to position well, and then Saijin God is not going to get good enough coverage.
Really clever passage of play to get this free space there by catching Luminous A's in the respawn.
There it is.
Here's the EMP at last. They finally make some headway, getting Queen, getting SQX. Diddacorn even committed a Transcendence. That was actually about as good a fight as you could get there for Giant LYNX out of that EMP. So really good credit where it's due there. Now let's see if they can replicate it, because Xavier's already regrouped.
Honestly, that went better for Giant LYNX than you could have probably expected, because Diddacorn had the correct counter. Everyone else got EMP. That's kind of expected, but usually the Transcendence comes through. No one's really dying there. Because Giant LYNX get a couple of picks, that's a pretty good fight.
Double grab, neither team really getting the better end of that deal. Saijin God going down, though, is a huge casualty. If you're not as worried about SQX there, given that THK just kind of get an EMP in or a hack to get any shields down. Not even needing that so far, just fragging out right now. Good kill on Diddacorn and also THK as well. So this time it does seem Xavier. I mean, I want to say they're overreached, but they're still moving the cart.
I think Xavier are absolutely fine right now. They still have an EMP available. Padapan gets saved by teammate Queen there as well, so maintains the high energy charge. Is likely going to outpace Bumbarapa quite easily here on the Graviton Surge. And so Xavier, nearly reaching the end of C, have a lot in their pockets to use.
And they're only just now having to get these members back on the cart, so they just kind of free push there for a little chunk. There's that EMP, absolutely massive. Only person that doesn't catch is Rocket, and he will get himself a Sound Barrier, but it does not save his Reinhardt, nor will it save his Brigitte, and it all starts to fall to pieces for Giant LYNX. The grab from Padapan, like you said, available, but members might be dead. Oh, he is going to commit it, but it's essentially a solo grab, full cap out, heaps of time in the bank. 2 weight classes.
And it's about, look, how much ammo is left in the magazine here. You're firing off all of these bullets, and if you're Xavier right now, the efficiency is so high, you're able to just get all these picks with a couple of rounds. You use the EMP. Likely at this sort of stage, by the time you get to the end of C, what we do see is teams run out of steam. They run out of ammo, they run out of fuel, and they do not have the juice to finish the map at some points. That's when the defenders get an advantage. But your Xavier Esports, I say, Grav coming up online soon. That's important because it's a big reload in terms of that magazine, the metaphorical magazine we're talking about. And Xavier just have more and more and more to use. And Giant LYNX are not able to keep up. They don't have the defensive ultimates. Rocket does get a Sound Barrier in there, but the effectiveness of some of these have so far not been paying dividends, and for Xavier, paying way bigger dividends.
I mean, again, it's like what we saw in a way on both maps of Nepal. Giant LYNX get the 1 fight in there, you know. In this one, it was an EMP. It was a good EMP. It was great follow-up. It was honestly pretty close to ideal, even getting the Transcendence out of Diddacorn. But it was still only 1, and Xavier regrouped almost immediately afterwards and started winning once again from that point on.
And I think Giant LYNX, if they had maybe kind of snowballed that one into their advantage, if they had held on, if they were able to get into the next fight and use the next ultimate coming up and have these sort of advantages to play with, we'd maybe be in a different position, because Xavier probably you know, that seemed like a little bit of a shock to fight loss for them, but because they had such a better opening on that A point, they had so much more to work with. Now that we're back on to A, we go back into that narrative of, is Xavier going to be able to regroup quickly if they make a couple of mistakes here? Bigger question still is, are they even going to have those mistakes? Are they even going to lose members early?
What was SQX up to there? At any rate, defense here from Xavier. They will
Yeah,
probably
this far ahead, I think you can have some fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, they'll probably end up dropping back to the point here. But I mean, look at this. Even just the poke coming into this heavily shielded up Giant Lynx in a very confined space. It's just nuts.
It's pacing here that's the worrisome thing as well. Giant Lynx have consistently been the slower team, not just in this matchup, but overall in the tournament. And they need to speed that up as well. They need to find the initiative. They need to find, how do we get in these fights? Who's weak? Who's low? Who can we pick off?
Now moving on to the point. And I mean, it's Giant Lynx taking the pain as they approach. Rocket ends up going down. Luminous A's and Sajin God both low. They're going to have to start seeding ground. And as you do so, they start taking casualties. Xavier know how to run down and route this team. Only losing Tay, who's honestly going to be able to rejoin pretty quickly.
The other thing to consider here is Giant Lynx on the attacking side could actually make use of the Sombra again if they wanted to. This is not a bad point for them to use it on. I think the attackers have a better way of really utilizing the Sombra anyway, so a little bit surprising they're not opting for that strategy, but also understandingly looking at how that defense went, maybe they got a little bit too traumatized, but I don't think the trauma is ending anytime soon, because look at this attack already. One push failed, ultimate's coming up online for Xavier, nothing available for Giant Lynx yet.
I mean, they're doubling Giant Lynx in charge in a lot of these places. That is a huge Earth Shatter. That is literally all 6 members. I have not seen that in years.
So not since the release of Overwatch.
Saw it on day 1, haven't seen it since.
And again, I gotta look at timing here because Panties just gets the Transcendence but he was one of the Shattered members. He gets taken down as the Transcendence comes up online available anyway. So for Giant Lynx, it's just unfortunate that he thinks the way the chips are falling for this team. I say unfortunate, but it's also like Xavier are able to find the plays that make it so bad for Giant Lynx. And I think it just gets worse because more ultimates coming on for Xavier. We're still waiting for something for Giant Lynx.
I mean, even if that something isn't an ultimate, I feel like we're waiting for a flash of inspiration. They just killed Panties, and immediately before the grab came out as well. You could not have been able to execute that in a better order. So again, single ultimate fight win. And remember that 6-man shatter? Queen's charged up another one already.
And that's what you can do when there's no Transcendence. In fact, even with the Transcendence, but in particular, there was no Transcendence this time around because Panties went down so quickly. He is the one member you probably don't want to lose in that scenario because you get grabbed, the Trance is an actual counter, but they don't even have it because he's down. And so Giant Lynx just kind of fold over. He's down again.
Jiminy Christmas of all the members to lose. And I mean, Xavier, they might as well push forward here, right? Either you force some ultimates out of Giant Lynx and you just answer with your own, or you get some kills. You just keep things in your favor.
You got to be careful though, because you do see SQX going down there. That kind of favors Giant Lynx ever so slightly. The problem I do see is I'm not sure if Giant Lynx are going to be really able to take advantage of that. SQX still making his way back in. Giant Lynx, if they want to be fast, now would be the time to be as fast as possible. 6 ultimates available. This has to be the fight they win.
And only 45 seconds left as well. That's how long it's taken them to get to this point. And now we actually have to see if they execute and win. Self-destruct layer in.
So good.
Yeah, to stop any follow-up, and with the shatter, it just connects like a plug to a socket. I mean, that is absolutely nasty. That is disastrous for Giant Lynx. They commit the grab, they commit the lot, and a single shatter self-destruct combo absolutely devastating.
This is what it feels like when you plug in the USB the first time and it works. And for Xavier right now, just everything's connecting.
It's actually the right way round.
Appropriately, I mean, it's the first attempt right there. They got fully grabbed up, 6 ultimates available for Giant Lynx, and then the shatter connects with the self-destruct. What more do you want?
I mean, Giant Lynx come into this fight again with an ultimate advantage, but less than last time, and I still can't say I'd favor them. Grabbed up just shy of the point. Both support ultimates committed. Luminous A's self-destruct. They barely get SQX. They have got good pressure down, though. But Luminous A's, ooh, barely surviving as they finish off Queen. Now Tay, now THK, and Giant Lynx have finally busted through this one. That could not have been any more down to the wire.
And I think that's 2 fights where they could have done this, and I say that in a way because they were kind of supposed to win that last one. You walk with 6 ultimates. The other team easily does not have 6 ultimates. You are supposed to win. This time around, they don't lose any members on rotation. Panty stays alive. Everything goes well. They find the openings. They find the initiation they've been waiting multiple fights to get into, and then they win a team fight they were supposed to win.
Just 2 minutes on the clock, and I mean, Xavier are already back in position to fight. Again, the resets are quick. They are ready to hold. They don't want this payload to go any further if they can so help it.
And because Giant LYNX had to overspend on that overtime push, they don't have enough ultimates coming up online. Xavier, they do.
You can just rotate in, Shatter out, largely blocked, and Queen goes down for that. Leaves himself a bit too vulnerable. Xavier now rotating into the rest of their ultimates, but it wasn't actually at the right time. That's an okay grab, but it's actually hard to follow up on it without the Reinhardt. Now Giant LYNX, shoes on the other foot, they put their grab out. They committed the self-destruct, death on Luminous A's though, but a decent self-destruct to pay it back. Now Xavier are going to have to cede ground, going to lose some members on the way as well. Do still claim a couple of casualties on the Giant LYNX side, but this is the payload continuing to move.
I think that was definitely a less than okay grab from Patapan, and you kind of said the problem there as well, because Queen wasn't there. Who's going to be really there to do the damage through the shield? It's not going to be Patapan. The other problem is Giant LYNX, they find themselves in a situation where Queen's so far away that if they do their own grab self-destruct combo, there's no big shield to block that one out. So Giant LYNX, they connect and they get to win another fight.
Now Giant LYNX with only the support ultimates. Luminous is nearly up on a Shatter though, and Xavier don't have a lot to work with themselves. Self-destruct forward is really all they've got. Throws it in, doesn't get anything. Now Giant LYNX just want to keep the pressure on.
This is where for Xavier Esports building up so quickly. Patapan's almost on another grab, but for Giant LYNX as well, Luminous Ace needs to find something. He's under pressure.
Thittercorn's unanswered up here. He's putting the Discord out behind the shield of Luminous Ace. The Shatter, though, allows them to open up some kills. Grab on either side of the fence there. No kills either. Wu Tay actually just on the back end of the grab. Now Thittercorn going down, so Giant LYNX have actually preserved a bit of momentum on what has honestly been some pretty lean fights.
And what you do see there as well, Luminous Ace finds in a Shatter and gets a kill off that. That's realistically all they need to kind of get advantage in this fight. Patapan, 2 out of 2 grabs now have not been ideal ones to follow up on, and for Xavier, they don't get any kills off of that. And Sadistic survives as well. He was so low. If there were maybe some trades going in favor of Xavier, that could have been different. But Giant LYNX are on track right now to possibly even finish the map if they can continue this momentum.
I kind of want to see Xavier just come into one of these full fighting force and, I don't know, get on with it. It feels like they're just expecting any one of these fights to be the one that they win.
Speaking of getting on with it right now, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
We only had 1:30 going into this, and Giant LYNX are kind of just dancing around this a little bit too much. They really need to be the ones pushing this.
Give Xavier time to charge up ultimates as well, and now that they've got them, they're happy to hit this one head on. Self-destruct layered in is still going to have a bit of conversion. That is more than enough to stop this one up short. Decent retreat from Giant LYNX though. They're not going to lose anyone else.
This has already been momentum loss. This has been the reset that might cost Giant LYNX this entire map, because less than 1 minute remaining, and for them to realistically cap here, they need to snowball through. So winning 2 fights on B, capping B, and then snowballing through to C was going to be their only win condition. Right now, with that reset, it's looking a lot less likely. We're going to hit to the 30-second mark. Even if they win this, they're getting into overtime.
They've got to have a great fight. They've got to out-frag, and then they've got to charge up ultimates while they're doing it. Very tall order here, a lot to ask for, and that is already a stun on Luminous A's. They're able to save him with the sound barrier for the time being. Self-destruct laid in on top of a grab. It's enough to get Patapan. That's not the one you want off the table. You'd like a little bit more of your Giant LYNX, but you'll take that. Now Queen charging in leaves himself vulnerable, and suddenly Giant LYNX with a bit of momentum now, but not really a lot of ultimates.
I gotta correct myself. It's not the one you want if you're Xavier, because he was the one with the Graviton Surge. If you're Giant LYNX, it is the one you want, because that's gonna be the one that stops you potentially. That's one that maybe turns around the fight. Xavier now still have opportunity. This is the overtime push that Giant LYNX were inevitably gonna have to push into. This they can still win it. They can get a decent amount of kills. Yeah, Xavier will not have respawns in time. This grab from Patapan has to be the best one of the game.
Dare I say though, the Giant LYNX actually have a reasonable chance here too. They've got the Transcendence to answer the grab. The real difference maker has got to be Queen with this Earth Shatter.
Giant LYNX definitely in position. They're waiting a bit too long though. Here it is, the engagement.
Finally, and that's just going to be straight on in. The Transcendence. Oh, great biotic grenade. And the self-destruct. Yeah, it's all falling apart now for Giant LYNX on that very last little push. They will not get it over the line. I have to really, more than anything else, actually compliment that biotic grenade. Their health bar's absolutely tanked even before the self-destruct came through. That was just nicely done by Xavier.
I think part of the issue, you see it once again right in that last push, Giant LYNX get themselves into a stalemate and kind of throw their hands up in those stalemate positions. They've unfortunately never really been the ones to press the go button or find something to do, and the longer they wait, the more opportunity they get to give Xavier the game plan. I mean, the grab was always going to be there. The Bionade comes through. Queen gets an Earth Shatter. That might not happen as well as it could have for Xavier if Giant Lynx forced some extra errors out. And the way they can force the errors is put the pressure onto Xavier instead, use the time against him. And while you're in overtime, I think in that sort of scenario for the attackers, they have a decent advantage because usually the defenders have the sort of respawn advantage. That doesn't work as well in overtime with the extended respawn timers.
It's a really rough situation at any rate. Like, even if they get that over the line, like, let's be completely honest. They would then have to defend for nearly 4 minutes with only a third needing to be capped for Xavier there, who got it in a one-and-done push initially. Like, even though they actually did have a decent middle section there, they did get somewhat close to capping out. At the end of the day, you've got to look at how it actually happened. That was still incredibly one-sided.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be still a difficult journey for Giant Lynx, even if they do cap out, right? Because like you mentioned, huge time bank versus not a time bank at all.
And best case scenario being a tie.
But the difference there is still you get to finish the map. Difference is we still got the time bank. You still get to say, look, you know, you can maybe beat Xavier. You can do something. You can finish the map. You know, you can actually take the game to Xavier and play on their level. But right now, because it wasn't a shutout. I mean, they didn't get fully held in A or anything, but they came close to finishing a map. That wasn't a full completion, and that still stings.
Yeah, I mean, they also came very close to actually still getting full held anyway. I mean, we've got to see Giant Lynx step it up in some capacity. But look, Xavier right now are looking in good shape and could well just kind of sail smoothly to home now.
Yep, and if anything, it is an improvement for Giant Lynx over the first map, so we'll see going into maps 3 and 4 if it can still continue to be an improvement because they're going to need it. When we come back from the break, it's going to have to be the reverse sweep for Giant Lynx or bust. We'll see you soon.